Welcome to Out of Home Insider. Today's guest is Gideon Adey. Gideon is the founder of Guru, a premier out-of-home consultancy that hinges on the principles of sound fundamentals and accountability. A thought leader in the industry, Gideon has watched the evolution of out-of-home across 3 decades and brings a unique wisdom that we can all learn from, whatever your role may be. Coming to you from all the way across the pond, Gideon, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Tim. Thank you for making me feel so welcome. 3 decades does sound like a very long time. Although, yeah, when you add up what I've done, it does end up being 3 decades. But I don't feel like I've done 3 decades of this. I still feel like I'm learning stuff.
Well, you look like you're just getting started. You're looking like fresh and ready to go.
I will take that compliment, and I'm very glad of the lighting effects that are helping that happen. I don't do anything like anymore.
Nothing like a little movie magic to get us going.
Exactly. Yeah.
Gideon, talk to me if you could sum up 3 decades in a bit of an origin story. No one's path to out of home has been straight and clear cut. What's yours?
Not at all. Okay, well, I mean, as a lot of people join out of home without realizing they have. I mean, I started out in media, selling press space, phone sales, talking. I got an interview for a company called Mills and Allen, which is now part of JCDecaux. And I went to see them, and I'd never seen posters, apparently, never seen posters. And they said, well, where do you work? And I go, Stamford Street. And they go, so, and where do you get there? And I go, through Waterloo Station. I walk down Stamford Street every day. They go, so you pass 9 billboards on that walk every day. I go, really? And I remembered all the ads, but didn't remember the structures. And that's kind of what really got me into it. It's a passive medium. People remember the campaigns. They don't remember them. I mean, people like me remember the structures now, but no one goes out to look for a billboard, apart from you and I. But people remember the ads. It goes in this kind of almost subconscious way. And that really sold me early doors. I did a couple of years with them. I stayed there now Decaux, a couple of years with a company called Mauro Farrell, now Clear Channel, and then joined a small specialist called Portland. And we bought a company called Posted Publicity Limited a few years later and formed Kinetic. Both companies had offices around the world already, and that became the kind of Kinetic network. And that was all backed by WPP money. And so we became the buying shop for WPP. Started out, then it's still a sales job, and probably is still today, working on tobacco brands, car brands, alcohol brands. I mean, our business was 35% booze, fags, cars. And we were selling large amounts of inventory nationally, and likewise buying it to these staples. I mean, we could see the writing on the wall. I mean, tobacco is not good for you. Booze I hear is not good for you. And cars increasingly are being demonstrated to not be very good. And the industry pivoted fairly quickly at that point, mostly entertainment and FMCG, whereas previously you might get maybe 15, 20 of the top 200 advertisers using out of home, outdoor, as we call them. And now I think probably 198. And we're the shop window for all kind of virtual brands. So that the client complexion has changed totally. When I joined the industry, I was shocked at the lack of financial transparency, and the lack of understanding of who was actually seeing these posters, and also because there was little in terms of inspection, or not many people did inspection. The opportunity existed for particular media owners to post photograph, post photograph, post photograph. The same board within the same, what we call in-charge cycle. And that gave out of home a really bad reputation of cowboys of the media industry. And again, within, I don't know, 5-7 years, that kind of thing really started. Sarbanes-Oxley wiped out the financial irregularities, and I would say 10, 12 years ago, we were probably the most transparent medium in the UK. Finances, inspection became standard for normal billboards, and we launched what was called PostStar, which is our first audience measurement system, and that ran across roadside and to an extent buses and ultimately underground metro. And that's evolved ever since. But those issues of transparency, I believe, still exist, although they've morphed on. And with the advent of many more digital screens, where taking a photograph of it being on once is not really a demonstration of it being there for the whole period that you bought it. There are new challenges there, challenges that that can be met. Challenges companies are my path through Kinetic. You asked for a short summation here. I'm sorry.
No, because you touched on a lot of things that I think are worth unpacking. And one of the things that jumps out right away is the topic around transparency. And obviously measurement creates accountability, because when we're measuring it, now we're inspecting, and if it's not really up, we're going to tell because the results aren't there, and we know that the medium works. What were the major catalysts that took place to really, it sounds like, accelerate that timetable on creating a more transparent experience for brands and advertisers?
In terms of transparency of the measurement piece, it was again probably 2008 we commissioned this, launched the first tranche of data 2012, and that's what we call our audience currency, which is Root, the equivalent of Geopath, I guess, but over here. The difference here is that in the UK, most of these kind of industry currencies are built by what are called joint industry committees. So that the business is owned by the seller and the buyer. And on the board, you have representatives of the media agencies, their trade body, and of the advertisers and their trade body. So you end up with transparency in terms of process and methodology. I'm not going into the methodology of it, but it's long and complex and quite expensive. I mean, for a market that's now doing about $1 billion, not this year, about $1 billion sterling, which I guess 1.3 US, in a country that's probably the size of California. We're taking 6% of all media, 10% of all display media. So it was a market that's worth investing in terms of that audience number, and getting an audience number in a very complex medium where someone drives past the board, gets out of the car, goes to a supermarket, then goes to a gym, then gets on the metro, then goes back to their car. You want to track that journey. So complex and quite expensive. The whole industry believed, and still does, that it's critical for us to compete with TV and luckily online to have robust metrics. You and I will know what a good board looks like. You and I will know what a great road to be on looks like. The premium location as you walk into a subway station. That's what we do, and we can feel that. But when you're sat at a desk somewhere and you're buying 1 million impacts, 10 million impressions, you want to know that they actually add up. Not only how many people, who, the quality of those impressions. You need to trust the data. And trust is incredibly important in everything. I mean, if it wasn't for the Federal Reserve, who would trust the greenback? If it wasn't for the Bank of England, who would trust sterling? The paper it's printed on is of very little value. It's the backing behind it. You know that behind that piece of paper, there's an awful lot of thought, stuff that I don't understand, don't pretend to understand, but I trust it. And that's where audience currency really comes in. That someone somewhere else making a decision about how much goes on TV, how much goes on posters, how much goes online, what the complete mix will do in terms of them selling shampoo or cars or whatever. They've got to trust all those data. And that's where investment in that kind of stuff started from, again, 2008, and we're still running that now. That contract runs up until 2023. And kind of moved from Kinetic, and I do various things, but one of my roles is working within Ipsos, who are the main research body behind route data. So I've sat on the route methodology committee for 12 years, on the board for probably 6, and now I guess on the factory end of actually creating the stuff. So I've always believed that you've got to know who's seeing it, you know, not just how great it looks. The photograph's wonderful, but who else is seeing that poster?
Right, telling the story behind this. You know, we know that your campaign is designed to do this and talk to these people. To your point, is it doing all of those things? And if it is, how are they responding? How are they engaging?
Exactly.
What are the results? How far do you go down that rabbit hole? You know, one of the conversations, it's maybe seemingly died off a little bit because foot traffic has been limited through social distancing, but all of a sudden we were going to tie out of home to foot traffic. But we know that there's a lot of things that have to happen.
Yeah,
seeing a sign and walking in somewhere. How do you think we approach the measurement?
Okay, so there are layers in this, and each layer is the foundation of the next. I'll come back to it, but did my poster go up? First layer, right. And we'll come back to that. Hopefully, the next layer is who saw it, and you've got to know that data's credible, that data's well researched. The next layer is what did they do next? And that's the really difficult part for any, and we call out of home broadcast, because it's not one-to-one, it's a one-to-many medium. Whether that's in a gym, possibly in a cubicle, it's not. In a gym, on the road, subway station, it's a one-to-many medium. So we are broadcasting the message. We can do quite targeted broadcast, you know, pick out one town, pick out one area near an outlet, but it's always going to be broadcast. So its natural ability is in brand building. Now, whether that's building a brand literally as someone walks into a retailer, or reminding them of brand as they walk into a retailer, even if they don't purchase that day, they've been reminded of that brand. It's a brand building meeting. So measuring it is a nightmare. And I think if anyone ever got to the point of measuring it completely, a lot of us would be out of work.
I agree.
You know, but depending on what your task is, you measure it in different ways. If you're running a brand-only campaign, then that's a research job. You go interview a couple of thousand people, find out what they thought before they saw it, what they thought after it. If you're looking for driving to store, you can do that to an extent with SDK data, or mobile app data, where you can see that device has been close to a particular poster site, and that device has been close to the store. You can't really tell whether it's going into the store. You just know, you know, if there's a health food shop next to a McDonald's, you don't really know which one they went into. But if you're selling space to McDonald's, then it's a McDonald's.
It's definitely the McDonald's.
You know, but it's all good indicative data, you know. But the fact that they didn't go to the store that week doesn't mean that the posters had no effect. So there's all these layers on this. You can put direct response mechanisms on posters, the whole touch thing, the QR code. There's lots of ways of tracking indicative behavior that shows that poster's had an effect. But I don't think we'll ever capture all of it in the way that you'll never capture all of the TV effect. The only way that you can get close to that is through modeling, when you're doing large quantities consistently of out of home. So I'd recommend everybody did large quantities of out of home consistently, and then we could measure it.
That seems like a fair ask. Do it and wait, and then there's something to measure. And it is, sometimes the hard thing to do, but walking away from a small deal because it's just not going to be enough weight to garner the result that the prospective advertiser is looking for. How would you recommend to? There's a lot of business development folks, a lot of account executive types that listen to the show. How would you suggest that they approach the idea of audience selling to a new advertiser?
It depends what the advertiser's after. If an advertiser is looking for a directional sign that says, "Hey, I'm next left," then it's a matter of just giving them a number. Um, if the advertiser is looking to sell a particular product, it may not be selling that through an outlet, like Unilever or Ford. Then it's a matter of trying to get under the skin of who they're really trying to reach. I mean, who they take Jaguar. They're looking to reach people who are both in market premium car buyers and will buy in the next couple of weeks, which is a very small group of people, and people who are considering premium cars. And from that, you can say, well, I don't know if I've got that in my data set, but I do know that those people are likely to be upscale, own their own home. There's a lot of attributes. And if you can talk to your buyer about painting a picture as to who this person is that they really want to reach, and you can match that in the data you've got, GeoPath, whatever data you're using, then you've got a key. It doesn't matter if 1 million people see your poster, if only 10 of them are the people they want. So find who they want, and then it's a matter of optimizing of the stock you've got, which ones will deliver best against them. And you may end up buying a board that plays to less people in total, but plays better, you know. The other thing that people consider quite a lot is quality of conversion. So if I've got 100,000, let's say 1,000 people passing a board, and 10% of them are my audience, and 200,000 people passing, or 2,000 people passing a board, and 5% are, I get the same number of people who are within my audience, but the quality of conversion is better on the lower delivering board. What proportion of the audience is my people? And that's a good indication that, because no research is perfect. That's a good indication that that's a better board for you in the right area. I did a lot of work for years, and they're very keen on who, and we would suggest stuff to them going, there's no way I want to be on this site. This is, my people don't live here. Right? No, they live at the end of that road, and they work at the end of that. The fact that it's above an area that you're not necessarily that impressed with, it's the people that clearly, if you're close to the store, it matters. The right area.
And I think that's it's an important point to make. Not just, hey, I can reach your target audience. I know some different ways to really be targeted in this approach, but also understanding the customer journey and how they're likely to come into exposure or interaction with a particular advertisement. Would that be a fair summation?
Yeah, exactly. And out of home advertising can touch all those layers. Is it, you've never heard of Jaguar the car? We need to do some work there. Sure. Is it that you've heard of the car, but you think it's a little bit out of date for you? You think it's a bit more old man's car? You need to do something about repositioning the brand as being a bit sporty. Is it that people consider the car to be too expensive or too unreliable? Those kind of big message stuff, that's right at the top of the funnel. But then you also want to be half a mile down the road from the Jaguar dealer, such that when people start considering a premium car purchase, they go, I know where that car is. You look at dealerships, I'm guessing it's the same there, and the amount of money they put on their frontage. Exactly. I mean, they will spend a lot of money to make their stuff look good, and good reason to. I mean, you're spending tens of thousands on a vehicle, hundreds of thousands, and they've got to look that good a mile down the road. So things like that, yeah, the frame's got to be beautifully built. It's got to be the right position. We have a format here which is called bus rears, and it's not like wrapping the whole of a bus. It's, well, you can't see my hand, but it's a small poster on the lower deck of the bus, which literally the car behind it could see, and no one else. Right? They sell well. They're great for car insurance. The research would show us that they deliver brilliantly against Mercedes drivers. They deliver brilliantly against all drivers. But there is no way Mercedes is going to go on that panel.
Sure.
So there's and this is what I love about the business, is for all of my data geekness, and like this is what the data says, you've still got to be a human. Go, but just look at it. You know, that's okay. This one's a little bit further down the road than the one that would be ideal for you, but just look at it. It's perfect. So there's always that bit of human in there. You know, 1,000 impacts against a bus shelter is not the same as 1,000 impacts against a human.
Right, different formats are going to carry different level of authority. There's a different level of perception, maybe, and that's an important consideration to make. A sign isn't just a sign, right? And they're not signs, but to be a bit humorous, they're not all created equal. Different placements can position a brand differently. So I think that's an interesting point that you bring up about the rear of the bus and Mercedes. As we continue moving through this kind of post social distancing world and the new norm, as you will, and considering how much the landscape has changed with brands that we see in out of home, are there particular categories that you think could be especially poised for a strong second half, or some areas that we should be focusing on that maybe the industry's overlooked?
Well, I think there's a lot of pent-up spend. I mean, you see this coming out of China and now in Italy, less so in Germany so far. A lot of pent-up demand for very premium, ultra premium. These are the entitled audiences who, you know, I mean, I haven't bought a Bulgari bag since, even if they make bags, a Bulgari watch for like 6 months. You know, these people will be back. You know? I wouldn't even know how much something like that costs, but so there's a pent-up market there, and we see that, and it's easy to see that in the uber premium element, because there are very small outlets for that, and they're generally clustered. See those people returning, but that has got to trickle down into other categories. People need a way out. Now, I don't know where you are with your allowing people to go to cinemas, but that kind of entertainment experience type brands, and that trickles into phone operators. Again, I don't know how the packages are sold there, but here, you know, you get a package which include free sports streaming, free social, that kind of experience that's been held back, I think, is where people will go next. So it's not necessarily a category spend, but an approach to advertising. But there'll be categories in there. I mean, there'll be a lot of what we call staycations. You know, it's a lot of people are going to be less comfortable getting into a plane for a little while. You know, and the Great American Road Trip is fabled across the world. We see it in movies, everywhere. I mean, you know, you see it in Indian cinema as much as you do in UK cinema, and I'm sure you see it in the US. How often have you actually gone and done that? Okay, tourist boards. Lodges. I mean, let people explore the myth and beauty of the great country.
Yeah, I think that it's a great point, and already seeing some of the redistribution locally here of a lot of those sort of destination type places that maybe would have advertised further away, right, to attract those people flying in and that sort of thing. So a lot of these destinations going to the within 3 hours model. So it could be tourism bureaus, it could be the attractions themselves that traditionally spent out of the market to pull people in are now spending more locally that maybe you'd never considered before. We're definitely seeing it here in the States. Some of that money pivoting.
Hotel chains and lodges. You know, if you're doing a 2-3 day journey to get somewhere, rather than a 4-hour flight, you've got to stay somewhere. You've got to eat something. So these kind of things, I think, might be of some interest. What we're seeing here a lot is FMCGs, fast-moving consumer goods, coming back fairly strong. And we're seeing again some pent up for auto vehicles.
That's great.
Yeah.
Were dealerships able to be open and still selling through this?
They've just started to reopen.
Okay.
But people just haven't been going.
Sure.
And here, I mean, we're very envious envious of you guys in the proportion of the market that is bought directly by brands and by dealers. Here, probably 85% of the market is bought by agencies.
Wow.
Yeah. It used to be more like 60-40. But again, this is history. I mean, in the days when everything had to be, the guy or gal up a ladder with a bucket of paste, you want to sell 1,000 of them rather than one.
Sure.
Because you sell 1,000 of them, the cost of installation is the same, but the cost of sale per unit is much lower. So you can drop your price, bring in all the big brands, do brilliantly. Now, as the cost of sale is falling, because I mean that involves a guy who have a set of clubs in the back of a car going knocking doors, and that's expensive. Now, as the cost of sale falls, certainly on digital, or the ability to even buy static posters online, that market here is starting to re-energize again. The guy that wants the one half a mile down the road.
Give me a hot take, if you will, Gideon. Just your opinion on exactly that, right? As we see more platforms coming online that are designed to remove friction from the buying process, make it easier for advertisers to buy out of home. There's a lot of concern, at least that I saw on the local level, from some of the more seasoned and tenured media reps, that this is all going to eliminate them. They're going to go the way of the buffalo because of programmatic and the ability to buy online. What's your opinion on that?
Okay. Everyone is scared of change, and if that were the case, then yes, they should be scared. I don't believe it will go that way. There are people who want to buy programmatic. By programmatic, I mean real-time buying or automated guaranteed. I'm not sure if real-time bidding. I mean, the systems are there to do real-time bidding. I'm not sure if that's a big fear. The idea is that we look at, in the way that when I started, we looked at TV as having all the money and we chased the TV money. And now we look at Google and Facebook got all the money and we chase that. They do a very different job from what we do. You will see some online money coming into out of home, doing the task out of home well, and that will come through the trade desk and the programmatic platforms and so on. You will see some automation of the existing mechanism working, i.e. agency and seller coming together, removing the spreadsheets, automating that process. You will also see, again, if it's transparent and can be verified, a bit of what known as automated guaranteed buying, where it's like, well, I'm not sure which boards I'm on. To be honest, I don't really mind. I just want to make sure I'm buying these hours. That's what fits my audience. That's just pure play audience trading. But you won't find people queuing up to buy out of home unless it's sold to them. You still got to convince people of the power of out of home. You can create the channels to remove friction, and there will be some loss in administration roles, I'm sure, over time, but not over a period of time that doesn't allow you to reskill people. People don't naturally go buy posters because it's this passive medium. People always want to see their ad on the telly. They might know a board close to them that they want to be seen on. People buy online because it feels safe, though it clearly isn't. Because there's data there, there's so much data it makes it feel like it's safe, although most of that data is fake. A lot of that data is fake. You'll always need to sell billboards because people don't appreciate that it's a medium. They remember the ads, but they don't remember where they saw it more often than not. And so you've got to remind people where they saw it. And that comes back to where I first started on it. It's such a passive medium, and that's one of its great powers. You don't remember where you saw the ad, so it almost feels like a personal recommendation because I don't know why I know this brand. I don't know why I feel comfortable with this brand, but I do. It's not been thrown down your throat. So no, I wouldn't be worried about that. There's a lot to be done in terms of automating the existing process and having standard ways of working. And I see a bit of that with the IBO USA, or at least reading their stuff. Just if everyone has a standard way of doing something, it makes it easier to buy across everybody. What happened in the UK and a lot in Europe, certainly Central and Western Europe, is that companies bought each other out. And then you ended up with 4 standards because there are 4 companies.
Sure.
What you see in markets where it's more fragmented is that technology's creating that standardization as a translation. There's a company called Edge One in India, and in India you have thousands of figurines. But it standardizes how they're available to buy. So that's a removal of friction, and allows people to buy more stuff. I don't think it removes jobs. But always be aware in any market of snake oil sales, like, it's got to be more than a dashboard. What's their outdoor history? Is it a couple of people in an office with a great dashboard and they're on Excel doing the work that you used to do, and they're charging you for that?
Sure. And we see a lot of that, right? Our proprietary dashboard. Everybody's got a proprietary dashboard. For somebody that's maybe on the other side and listening to this conversation, maybe it's a brand considering out of home. Where are the places that they're most likely to find friction, and how can they best navigate it if it's their first time considering out of home? Where do you think the one thing is to know for a first time out of home brand?
Well, I spent 21 years at Kinetic, so I would suggest that you need to find someone who will aggregate for you if you're a bigger brand. So if you're looking for, here a national campaign would be a reasonable size state for you. You need someone who's going to take that grief away from you, and that can be a salesperson with enough inventory who can take that grief away, resize copy to make sure it fits all the formats you bought, gives you credible, independent data on who's seeing it, that it went up, that it was seen by these people. Just is friction. And whether that's a person taking that friction away, or whether it's a company taking the friction away, or whether at some point it is one of these systems taking it away, I think for anybody buying it, you've got to have it simplified for you, because it's a complex medium, the way it's absorbed, in the way that physically people have to go and put the stuff up. Meanwhile, stuff's going up on screens. Get an expert.
Sounds like finding a guru could be a helpful thing.
As I say, I've got to. I worked 21 years for a specialist, so I believe in specialism. But I know those skills also exist in salespeople.
No, it's good to know, even for myself, right? As a relative newcomer to out of home, I was kind of trying to piece that together. What's the value? There's so many pieces, right? We see the Lumascape of out of home, and who are all these people, and how does it all fit together? So understanding that, having that single point of contact, somebody who can play liaison and just be the boat captain, if you will, and navigate you through the channels, that makes a lot of sense. It makes it easier to want to do it.
It's got to be easy to buy.
Be easy.
Otherwise, you'll go and do AdWords. You'll go online,
Sure.
because that's easy to buy, and they give you enough data to make you feel comfortable. Whether that data is real or not, but they give you enough of it. The issue, there are lots of issues online. I don't really want to get into that, but the two big ones are ad fraud, which often is the publisher's fault, and often isn't the buyer's fault, because a lot of this fraud is incredibly sophisticated. And the number of mouths feeding. You spend $1 and the publisher gets 35 cents. There are so many people in the middle. Well, if you could go direct, you'd be getting $1 worth of space rather than 35 cents.
Not only are you going to buy something that relatively is a fraction of the cost, that's, I don't know, an inch by an inch and a half compared to 40 plus foot wide. and you're guaranteed to deliver it to human beings. That sounds like a pretty good value proposition to me.
I don't know about the market there, but certainly over here, you don't see bots standing around looking at posts.
I haven't seen any yet, but I suppose anything's possible in the world today.
Yeah.
Gideon, we've reached a point in the show that I call questions from Carlos Zavala. He's the marketing manager for InMotion Media, and he said, "Tim, can you start asking all the guests a couple of standard questions, because it would be fun to get to know them beyond just the out of home stuff." So if your game, you want to do this?
Yeah, well, let's see what they are.
All right, let's see. This is a tough question because I think everyone loves out of home so much that the answer has been, I'd be doing something else in out of home. But the first question is, if you weren't in out of home, so let's maybe out of home doesn't exist, what would you be doing?
I'll give you two answers. In media, it would be cinema, just because it's big and in your face, and just love it, you know. And if it wasn't, I would be trading old German.
Very cool. Very cool. What are you most excited about right now? It could be in the industry, it could be something personally. What are you most excited about?
Wow. Well, getting my kids back to school would be a good start, you know. Yeah, having a pint, having a drink with friends.
Yeah, that sounds real good.
You know, being able to hug my mates. It's again, it varies where you are as to what lockdown state you're in, but here in theory you can go to a bar from July the 4th, have to stay 1.5 meters apart after having a couple of beers. Yeah, right.
We'll see.
So yeah. I mean, I've been working from home quite a lot recently, as a number of people have. It's just getting back out there.
Yeah, simple pleasures.
Yeah, seeing people in 3D.
For sure. Hey, I took my truck for an oil change the other day, and my friend is the service advisor at the dealership, and I just couldn't. I hadn't seen her in 6 months, and just had to give her a hug, and it was weird. It was weird to hug like another person that's not your immediate family. It was a strange thing.
The other thing that's probably high on my excitement list at the moment is waiting for the mailman, because somewhere out there in the mail is an I Heart OOH hat.
We just did. So Gideon ordered a hat like right before COVID shut the whole world down in terms of, I guess, ordering hats. And it's somewhere. Where is it now? Latvia?
My hat is traveling the world. I think it's traveling
for all of us.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, by the time it gets here, it's going to have like a gold reward card from some airline.
It should, at the very least.
Yeah, so that's one of my top excitements at the moment.
Well, I'm excited. That's what I'm most excited about, is for your hat to finally get to. And I appreciate you supporting the show and showing your love for out of home. And we look forward to a day when things are back in stock and shipping doesn't take a month. That's what I'm most excited about. How about inspiration, motivation, reflection? Are you a podcast guy? Do you read? Where do you go for those sorts of things? Any recommendations?
I listen to a couple of podcasts, but no, mostly I conferences I find inspiring on occasion. There are some people I follow on LinkedIn whose articles are very good, often from territories that you wouldn't expect to be busy on out of home. I get a lot out of my kids and their kind of simplicity of view on life. They're not clouded by all kind of crap we've bought over time. Yeah, and honestly, I really like going out in the countryside. This may sound terrible. There's nothing, no buildings, no billboards, nothing.
That sounds like a nice place to get away to.
Yeah, just getting out with the dogs and getting out there.
Very good. Gideon, where can folks learn more about you, find out more about what you do? Where's the best place to find you?
You can find me. I've got a website, which is Guru, which is GUROOH.co.uk. Or you can find me on LinkedIn as Gideon 80 or as Guru, which is where I try and share things that I find interesting, insightful from around the world. There's a lot going on. There's something about out of home where you get on a plane, when we can, and you go to a country that you hardly know, and the out-of-home folk just welcome you. It's just, I don't know what it is, but there's something family about this. And so anyone who's just joined the business, this is your life.
It truly, listen, I am on the record being critical of billboards, specifically billboards being used for automotive advertising. I was not a believer. Once I saw how out of home impacted brands inside of Google Analytics, and I could see it, there was a tangible lift. There were more people going to the website. There were more people buying stuff. There were more people doing the things that were fundamentally important to a business. Once I saw that, the hook was set, and the rest is history, as they say. Yeah. Out of home has its hooks in me.
It does. You just got to serve your time.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And there's, I don't think no better format to just use as a creative canvas for whatever you can imagine.
We often describe it as the second oldest profession.
And if you're not familiar with what the first is, you can check the show notes below. And trivia. Gideon, it's been a pleasure, sir. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you very much, Tim.
If this has been helpful, I encourage you, please share it with somebody who could benefit. As always, make sure to click the subscribe button down below in the corner. If you want to get swagged up sometime in the next 6 months to a year, obviously forgive for shipping. Check out oohswag.com. Use promo code INSIDER for 10% off your first purchase, and we'll see you guys next time.